which is really bad. And, you know, we've had lots of rain lately, and we're going to go see the flood areas in Cebu, and we're going to hopefully see what's happening over there. And because lots of people passed away, we're going to go to hopefully the severe area where they had lots of people who perished in the flood. And from what I heard, it was at least 111 victims, families. And we're going to talk about like why all of a sudden Cebu is getting flooded like that, especially by the homes. And we're going to head on over to the flood area, and we're going to just see like what is exactly happening. I happen to be on vacation at this time, so I'm not really like a storm chaser. But while I'm here in Cebu, I planned this trip several months ago. But since they had the typhoon and stuff and the flooding, and it's coming today, hopefully we won't get like a lot of rain on us. The clouds are very heavy right now in Cebu, and they say hopefully the rain from the typhoon will come later on today. But we're going to head on over to Talisay, where they had lots of problems, where lots of people sadly perished in the flooding. And, you know, the flooding really is a result partially from a combination of many things, like the earthquakes, also the construction. You'll notice some of the flooding has taken place below the development area, and a lot of the area is being impacted by the development, by construction. What they do is they scrape the land, and then where there was trees and stuff at one time, there's no trees at the moment, and the mud from all the rains and stuff just goes downhill. And then before, the mountains absorbed much of the water, but what happened was, due to a lot of the construction, they stripped all the topsoil, and they didn't put proper drainage, irrigation systems. And when they have the heavy rains, what happens is that a lot of the water just comes down, because it's all like just flat, all the topsoil's gone, and there's nothing to hold the rain. It's just like a river. So the river collects a lot of mud, and then it goes down the mountain. And guess what? Usually in a lot of these places, there's a lot of areas where a lot of the poor people live. And that's what happens, is that the water just floods down there. But before, the water really didn't flood down there because the mountain absorbed a lot of that water. But since a lot of the construction has taken place in the Cebu area for the developers and stuff, and some of the developers, they promised to do like an irrigation system. So when the water came down, it would divert away from the people. But I think what happened is that the developers didn't get like regulated. And so what happened is that it maybe cost them millions of pesos to do that, I'm sure. So the developers probably are like, we don't want to spend the millions of pesos. Let's just forget about it. Nobody will know. But now everyone knows. Everyone knows. Yeah, it's a flash flood. Yeah, you got a flash flood there too? Well, the flash flood definitely comes from like development in a lot of these areas, especially in Cebu. You know, there's a lot of beautiful homes in Cebu in the mountains. We're going to go to that area right now. We're waiting for a bus, and then we're going to go that area, and we're going to start trying to find out what's happening over there. But if you look on like a video or pictures, the developers just destroyed the top of the mountains, leveled it, took all the topsoil out, and what's left is just some dirt. And when these heavy rains, like what's going to happen today, And what happened last week, a few days ago, the dirt just runs off and it just floods the lower areas of the mountain. And that's where a lot of the people live, especially like the poorer people. And that's why a lot of people got like, they passed away. And also a lot of cars and stuff got destroyed. The cars just went on top of each other. It's really horrible. Yeah, it's really scary when you live near the beach when there's a huge storm. Absolutely. It's super scary when you live near a beach. It's always advisable, like if you're near a beach, if you can, to be a little elevated up higher. Because if you're down at like sea level at the beach, the high tide comes and also the typhoon, the rain, everything, and it's really scary. So if you're like beach level, it can be very dangerous. That's why if you're near the beach, it's advisable to be a little elevated so that if there's a problem, even a tsunami, you won't be affected by it. But if you're beach level and there's horrible high tide, horrible weather, you're going to be affected. In fact, it could destroy your house. It could flood you out. It could do serious damage if you live, let's say, beach level. And I bought a villa in the Philippines, but I wanted to make sure that it was elevated. It's on the beach, but it's elevated high so that no typhoon can affect it or no tsunami or nothing like that, because it's really dangerous. And yeah, it's, you know, when I was driving around Cebu the last few days, I saw areas where the whole area was like evacuated and people were getting food from the government, and there was big vans and trucks saying like food from, I forgot the agency of the government, but it was a government like big truck, and they were feeding the people. And you know, with all the problems they have in the Philippines and stuff, it's really nice to see the government helping feeding the people who have trouble during this typhoons. And it's really a catastrophe. And we're going to head on over to see that right now in Talisay, where they had the major flooding and just lots of loss of lives, over 111, and also lots of lost vehicles, lots of damaged vans and cars and buses. It's just horrible. And Cebu was really hit bad. And part of that, they say, was because of the earthquakes, because the earthquakes like opened up some of the holes in the earth. And the holes from the earthquake, a lot of the cracks in the earth got filled up with water, and it definitely caused trouble. And then, like I mentioned, you have the construction on the mountains. And I've seen a lot of it, and they're beautiful homes. I mean, they're like $1 million homes, but they didn't take into account the people below. Maybe when they're developing it, they thought that they should do that, but since they built it, a lot of these developers, they didn't put an irrigation system. So the people down below, the poor people who suffered, they just get flooded like crazy. And I live in an area where that happened too. So if the water is normally sucked up in the mountain, and then because the trees and the grass and everything absorb water, right? But once they shave all that stuff out and there's no more just raw dirt, no topsoil, then when the rains come, there's nothing to hold that water, and the water just, it's on a mountain, right? So the water is going to go downhill, and then it reaches the poor people that are at the bottom of the mountain. So it's very horrible. you know, when that happens, because these people did nothing wrong. And a lot of these people have lived there their whole lives. But once they start that construction and they start ripping the mountain apart, that's when the problem happens. And I heard that the bus is coming. Our bus is coming. We'll get on the bus for a second. And that's when the problem happens, when they have that development. And the developers really should have made amends for their construction. But a lot of times people like to save peso, so they don't do it. But now the government is doing some investigation on some of these multi-million peso homes because they're supposed to do that and they never did. And that creates a big problem. And those people live there lots of time, lots of years. And it's really horrible that these people, they suffered and they had, you know, lots of problems as a result. We're going to get on the bus right now, and but it's crazy, you know, how people, the greed of people, like I'm a licensed contractor before in the state of California, so I have a little knowledge of construction and building and stuff. And you know, it's terrible when people like they do things like that because of the greed. It's really horrible. We're getting on the bus. We're headed on over to check out some of the typhoon damage on the flooding. Thank you. So we're headed in the bus right now, and we're gonna go there. It's nice and cold in the bus today. Huh? So yeah, it's